look at the point, and here's 32/64, so that's about a ½ an inch deep at that point. Also, what I want to do is make sure this is fairly well balanced, so I've got these calipers set at like 2½ inches. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I'll just make a little line across here so I have a reference point for the other end. Okay. All right. Yeah, you can see the reference line there, I believe. It's held on pretty tight. But of course, I'm wearing a face mask. Now I'm going to come in just a little bit off that line. And the end of my rest gives me a good reference point that I don't want my hand to go past. And I'll measure that, and that's just about a ½ an inch. A little bit less on one side, but that's not critical. Now I've got to make a taper on there so that my jaws will hold it better. Alrighty. Now we'll go ahead and change to my narrow jaws. I just got this easy chuck and it holds really well. I had an old narrow jaw Nova chuck, but after about 15 years it wasn't holding so well. And that lines up right with that hole that I drew. Now I drew a little reference line over here just a little bit ago. I'm going to extend that just so I can see a little bit better, and that's going to be the top of the bowl, this portion right here. Check on the jaws. Okay. And again, when you're reaching to turn your machine on and off, you want to bring your arm around like that, not obviously this way. Now what I'm going to do is use my Forstner bit to make a 1.5 inch diameter hole, and I'm going to make the hole approximately 1.5 inches deep. And when you're using a Forstner bit, you don't want to go too fast. And I've already marked this with tape. Can't see that very well at this point, but I'm going to line up the outside of the wood on both sides so I got it level and go down to my tape line. Okay. While you're watching me do that, we'll pass out a couple of these one-piece scoops that I've made. Now I found it easiest to round off the bottom of the hole using an easy tool scraper, but I forgot to bring that, so I'll just use it the way I used to do it in the old days. Okay, that's fine. Let me just double check and make sure this is still tight. Now, before I do that, make it easier for you and me, I'm going to put on this little light that I find is really helpful when you're hollowing out things. Say again? This, I think, is a Cindy Drozda tool, and it's really helpful if any of you are going to SWAT. You can get that, of course, on her website. So it's magnetic, and it's got these little tiny LEDs, so stick to almost anything. So you just put just a little bit below the rim. Now you don't need to do this if you want a flat bottom scoop, but I like the bottoms of my scoop to be rounded. Just for comparison, just about where I want it to be. Now, just to show you how deep I am, I'm just a little bit past center. Okay? Just trying to deal with a little nib down at the bottom. That looks pretty good. And right where the transition is between the straight Forstner bit and the curved bottom, sometimes we'll make a ridge, and that looks like we've got that taken care of. So it looks like we're getting a nice rounded shape on the bottom. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty good. Now, I made just a little depth gauge for myself. A ruler works perfectly fine, but I made this so it's about 1 3/8 inches deep. That's the final depth that I want. So right now I want it a little bit deeper. And that's plenty deep. It swings easily. It's not touching the bottom. So I'm going to cut off a little bit more of this rim. Whoa! Okay, that's fine. That's why I made some extras. Yeah, here, why don't you give me that? I'm actually going to be able to salvage that. I'll show you how. Yeah. Yeah, I found out by trial and error that a 1.5 inch in diameter hole, 1 3/8 inches deep, will hold 3 scoops of ground coffee, which is enough for 1 10-cup coffee pot. Okay? So what I'm going to do at this point is turn off this tenon, which is an optional point anyway at this point. Because if you do turn it completely round, it will probably turn off the tenon anyway. But in case your calculations are off a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and turn it. And at this point, it's pretty strong, so you can crank it down pretty good. Now I'm going to come across the lathe just to round off this edge a little bit. Just what I happen to have. And now we'll just sand this off a little bit. And again, this may not be entirely necessary if we end up turning it all off. All right.